Homefront, the Heart of Heroes, American Heroes on the Homefront, and it's the latest book out from Oliver North. Oliver, Tim, and Ed with you. Thanks for being our guest, my friend.
Good to be back with you guys. Thank you very much.
What do you? I see you on Fox News from time to time. You still doing some commentary there?
Well, actually, I just got back from Afghanistan, my 57th embed in July, and finished off this book, and it's now out. Doing very, very well because it's part war story and part love story. And hopefully the American people are coming to realize that as this war, quote, winds down, unquote, we've got a lot of great heroes, not all of whom wore camouflage or flak jackets or helmets. Some of the heroes are right here at home. If you accept the classical definition of a hero as being a person who puts themselves at risk for the benefit of others, that certainly defines those that I cover overseas and those that are in this book, their loved ones back at home.
You've been embedded overseas in Afghanistan itself 57 times, or are you just talking about going overseas with troops?
Oh, no. Some of that was in Iraq, and some of it was in Somalia, and some of it was in the Philippines during that fight against the Abu Sayyaf terror group, the radical Islamic terror group out there that's obviously now trying to make a comeback in the aftermath of that horrible typhoon that tore apart southern Philippines. In fact, one of those islands is where all those Marines are that we were out there chasing down Abu Sayyaf. So wherever you've got soldiers, sailors, airmen, guardsmen, and Marines in action over the last 12 years, Fox has sent me there, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to cover them.
If you don't mind my asking, sir, how old are you?
Well, I get that question from some of the troops because I'm out there trying to keep up with a 25-year-old.
That's what I was going to ask. I said, how in the world are you doing this? Because I remember we were talking about. I remember you on watching on the hearings, just mesmerized. The Iran-Contra hearings back, I guess, it must have been in the 80s. And
it was the summer of 1987, and I was just a young pup at that point. I'm now 70.
You're 70,
you would be amazed at how fast an old man can move when he's properly motivated.
Well, you know what? My wife and I are going to the track. We're walking tonight. I can't. His 70-year-old Oliver North is humping it with troops in the Philippines and around the world. And I come home from work sometimes and say, I'm just tired. Let's not go walking. Buddy, I'm going to the track. You've inspired me.
Yeah.
Well, I encourage you to jog at least one of those laps and make at least 5 of them around that track if it's a quarter mile, because the guys I go out with go for 10, 15-kilometer hikes, normally up the sides of mountains.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's how you stay in shape, is you keep up with a 25-year-old while you're wearing a flak jacket and helmet.
Oh.
Talking to Oliver North, the author of the book American Heroes on the Homefront. It's a great idea for a Christmas gift. It would be to purchase this book for somebody. Tell us a couple of the stories in the book, if you would.
Well, it begins with a story about the Navy corpsman that saved my life in Vietnam. And interestingly enough, he came back, took the GI Bill. He was grievously wounded after he treated me, and then evacuated back to the States, took the GI Bill, went and got his degree, came back in the Navy as a doctor, is still treating guys from this war in PTS and TBI and chronic pain. And he's the guy who admonished me at one point that I didn't understand about that. And so after 40-some-odd years of being, doing different things, he brought me back out there to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center and showed us how the advances are being made in treatment for this, as well as the guys you've seen in these photographs, over 250 of them in this book, many of them grievously injured, are recovering. And he makes the point, I think, very, very clearly. Not only is it because of advanced medicine that these guys' lives are saved, many of them would have died in any other war, but it's also because of the love and affection of the spiritual growth of those youngsters and their loved ones, that they actually recover and become productive back here in the States. And so my encouragement for the American people is get to know a hero. Get to know these youngsters because they're coming back home. The military is being downsized. And tragically, the unemployment rate for the veterans of this war is double the national average. That, to me, is unconscionable. I was in a church yesterday down in Alabama reminding people that what we've got to have are people of faith who are up to the task of putting out a sign that says hire veterans and making sure that if you've got a good job, you can find a veteran who meets your skill set that you've got to have. And that's what these folks are looking for. They're not looking for sympathy. They're not looking for pity. They sure don't want to be treated as victims. What they really want is to be productive in our society. And I think those of us who are people of faith have an obligation to them, first of all, to say thank you, and second of all, to see if you've got a good job, hang out a sign that says Veterans Wanted.
We're talking to Oliver North, a combat-decorated U.S. Marine, #1 best-selling author, the host of War Stories on the Fox News Channel. He's written a new book called American Heroes on the Homefront, The Hearts of Heroes, and it's filled with photographs of men and women who manifest the meaning of the word hero. Oliver, let me ask you this. I was in an airport not too long ago, and I saw someone walking past who was obviously injured severely in war, missing two limbs. And this is what I always wonder. And so I want to ask you, as you talk to these who have come back, oftentimes severely wounded, is there ever? There must be at some point a struggle. These are young men and women for the most part. Their early 20s, let's say. They're looking at spending the rest of their lives without a leg, two legs, an arm. Do they ever struggle with whether that sacrifice was worth it?
To a person, there's 17 stories of heroes in this book, both going back to Vietnam, because those heroes, when they came back from that war, were not treated with the respect that they deserved. In fact, were spit upon and castigated. So I started those three stories, starting with Jack Fowler, my corpsman, now a doc, and Tim Lee, who's an evangelist, and all of what the Carpenter family went through while he was a prisoner of war in Hanoi. Those are inspiring stories. They know that life is tougher, but they don't sit around and say, oh, woe me, shoulda, woulda, coulda. And in large part, that's because they've been counseled by people like Jack Fowler. Yep, you've gone through a life-changing experience. Your life is never going to be quite the same again, but you can be even better than you thought you could be and inspire others. What's the purpose of a hero? Why do we have stories in the Bible about heroes? It's because they're there to inspire us, and that's what these youngsters do. And they don't. These folks who I've come to know and love over the years, these are not people who sit around looking for sympathy. And what they're doing is they're going out there and showing people we can do it. And as I say, I think our obligation in the private sector, it's the government's job to heal them and make them better. The Lord knows the VA needs to do a lot more than they're doing now and do it better than they do it now. Why is it that it takes upwards of 22 months to get registered in the VA system when you've lost two legs? That's just unconscionable. The bureaucracy in Washington that's got signs over the door that nothing is too good for our vets, and that's just what we'll give them, that attitude needs to change. But our job in the private sector of America, particularly in the churches of America and Christian businesses in America, is to give these youngsters an opportunity for a good, productive job. And I can't believe that we can't do better at it.
Talking to Oliver North. We read a lot about this problem of suicide now among our returning veterans. What's the truth of that, and can you tell us why it's happening, what we can do about it? Go ahead.
Let me be very quick about it, because I don't want to miss this next book signing at the Christian bookstore. Here's the bottom line. The VA heals PTS, post-traumatic stress, by handing guys cocktails of pills, psychotropic medications. And anybody who knows anything about these things will tell you that if you get the dosages wrong, too much or too little, or forget to take them, it can cause what they call suicidal ideation. Second of all, when you have headlines like we saw a few weeks ago, I'd just gotten back from overseas, my 57th embed, and there's a headline in the Washington Compost and lots of other newspaper, Navy vet kills 12 at Navy Yard. Remember that?
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So what did being in the Navy have to do with the fact that a person who shouldn't have had a clearance to begin with when he killed somebody? Nothing. It had absolutely nothing to do with it. But our colleagues in the media, the so-called mainstream media, that's the story they put out. They don't know these people. But that was an easy headline to write. It fit neatly at the top of the column. It's the kind of thing that causes an HR person who's got responsibility to hire and fire to say, whoops, I'm not going to take the vet. I'm going to take somebody else. And so ultimately, if you're despondent and you can't get a job and you're being told by the administration in Washington, we're not going to win this war, we're simply going to get out of it. All of those things make people wonder, was that sacrifice worth it? And this happens in almost every book signing. I've spent so much time over there, almost every book signing, a person will walk up to me with a photograph taken of me and their loved one wearing a flak jacket and helmet in some godforsaken faraway place. And I'll sign it. In Oklahoma a couple of days ago, a woman walked up and said, sign this to Chad. And I said, great. She said, no, make it in memory of him. This photo was taken in July when I was in Afghanistan. She said, yes, he was killed 2 weeks after you left him. Was his sacrifice worth it? Now, my answer to that today is Afghanistan will be worth it if we don't abandon the people of Afghanistan. Look, young Americans in flak jackets and helmets have shown Muslim men how to treat Muslim women and children. They become the protectors of them. It's a dramatic change in a culture that never before respected a woman or a child. And they've shown them how to do that. That's changing that culture. If we abandon them, and it goes back to what it once was before 2001, it will be a lost cause. My hope and my prayer is that we're not going to do it that way like we did in Iraq.
So,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, are you saying that our troops have had? See, I have not heard that our troops are having that kind of an impact on the men of Afghanistan. We don't get that kind of news back from that front.
Look, I've been over there with guys who spent 5 and 6 tours out there, and I've been with them on, let's say, the 1st and the 3rd and the 5th. Okay, and they will tell you that they have changed that culture. The Afghan army was once a brutal, despotic outfit. The Afghan National Police were once incredibly corrupt. That's all changing. It's not complete yet. And if we pull the plug on them here in January or February next year, which is what everybody keeps talking about in the Obama administration, we will have sacrificed all that blood and all that treasure for nothing. There's an election being held in Afghanistan. My guess is it'll be my 58th and maybe my last embed because I'll be pushing 71. And at that point, I'm expecting that there's going to be not a Jeffersonian democracy, but there's going to be a positive outcome in which the people of Afghanistan will get to vote. And guess what? Women will get to vote. And that's 53% of the population that up until we got there was never allowed to participate in the social or economic or political life of the country.
Well, listen, Colonel North, we wish you the best with the book. What's the title of it again? Where can people get it?
It's okay. It's at every bookstore in America, number one. Number two, the book signing schedule. The book tour is up at olivernorth.com, and people can get books there. Here's a special deal. For those of you listening to this broadcast right now, Thanksgiving is coming up. Anybody who goes to Amazon.com and buys a book between now and then, I will personally donate $1 to Freedom Alliance, the outfit that gives scholarships to the youngsters who've lost a parent. So you go to Amazon.com, buy a book, give it to a veteran or an active duty service member or their families, and say thank you on Thanksgiving that we are free enough to celebrate that. So Amazon.com, buy American Heroes on the Homefront, the Hearts of Heroes. It's a very vivid cover. It's got 2 combat boots, 1 artificial leg, 1 real leg, and a Purple Heart. You cannot miss it. It's a very dramatic cover. You get that book at Amazon.com. I'll donate $1 for every one of those books between now and Saturday, so you can give it to somebody who served our country.
Thank you, Colonel North. We wish you the best. Look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Thank you, Tim. Ed, appreciate you all. God bless.
Thank you.
He was off to a book signing, right? Or he was at the bookstore.
Yeah, I think he that's what he said. He didn't want to miss the book signing. So
I remember watching when America first got to know Colonel North, like you were saying at those hearings.
Yeah.
It was Iran-Contra congressional hearings that he appeared in, and he really endeared he got the American people, the majority of them, on his side, I think, from his testimony.
Yeah. Well, I think people like the fact that he was an honorable man, not only served his country, but stood up to some congressional bullying. That's just, and then just to hear him talk about continuing to be embedded with these troops, at age 70, that's just extraordinary. Of course, he's been doing it all his life, so he obviously kept it up. And but what an extraordinary thing, and he's lived an extraordinary life, and I certainly appreciate